At my daughter's medical school graduation, she stood before 500 people and said, "I thank everyone who supported me on this journey, except my father, who has been a disgrace to our family." $80,000 I had invested in her education, and that was her way of thanking me. That same night, I canceled the $120,000 loan for her master's degree. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, because we have new stories daily. Give us a like and tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. My name is Andreas Hoffman. I'm 62 years old, and for 25 years I believed that being a father meant sacrificing everything for my daughter's future. On June 26, 2024, at the Dresden Concert Hall, I discovered I had been completely wrong. Leonie Hoffman Klein, my only daughter, was graduating after 6 years of medical school. 6 years during which I paid every tuition fee, every textbook, every piece of equipment, every additional course she needed. I worked 12-hour days running my construction company, so she would never have to worry about money. Not once, not ever. I arrived at the auditorium an hour before the ceremony, dressed in my best navy suit. I had bought flowers, prepared an emotional speech for after the graduation, and in my jacket pocket, the keys to a Mercedes-Benz C-Class I had purchased as her graduation gift. A $45,000 car that I planned to hand her that very afternoon. The ceremony began at 4 p.m. I sat in the 5th row. My ex-wife, Sabine Klein-Weber, sat 3 seats away from me. We had divorced 8 years earlier, but we always maintained a cordial relationship for Leonie's sake. Though I must admit, Sabine never missed an opportunity to make disparaging comments about my lack of university education or my working-class manners, as she called them. When the moment came for the thank you speeches, Leonie walked onto the stage, radiant in her graduation gown and cap, smiling at the crowd. She searched for my eyes in the audience, and for a moment I thought she was going to dedicate some special words to me. It had been my dream since she was little, and said she wanted to heal people. "I want to deeply thank all the people who made this moment possible," Leonie began, her voice clear and confident. "My mother, Sabine Klein, who always taught me the importance of education and culture. My professors, who patiently guided me. My classmates, who became my second family." My heart raced as I waited for my place in her words of thanks. I glanced toward Sabine's seat and saw her smiling proudly, recording everything on her phone. "I thank my boyfriend, Marcus Weber, who supported me through the most difficult moments of my studies," Leonie continued. "My maternal grandparents, who, although they are no longer with us, always believed in my potential, and all my loved ones who are celebrating this success with me." I waited and waited, but my name never came. Then came the killing blow. I want to be honest with you all. This journey wasn't easy, and some people in my life were more of an obstacle than support. I thank everyone who helped me get here, except my father, who has been a disgrace to our family and whose presence here today is merely a formality. The silence in the auditorium was deafening. 500 people turned to look at me. I felt as if someone had stabbed a knife into my chest and slowly twisted it. Sabine had a barely perceptible smile on her lips. Some family acquaintances looked at me with a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. I remained motionless for a few seconds that felt like hours. Then, very slowly, I stood up. I didn't say a word, didn't make a scene. I simply smiled. I nodded slightly at Leonie and walked toward the exit with what dignity I had left. As I left the auditorium, I could hear people murmuring about what they had just witnessed. In my mind, images of all the sacrifices I had made flooded in. The nights I worked late to pay for her education, the business trips I canceled to attend her school events, the vacations I postponed to save money for her tuition. That night, in my study, with all the receipts and financial documents spread across my desk, I made the most difficult and liberating decision of my life. If I was a disgrace to Leonie, then it was time to act like one. When I got home that night, the first thing I did was pour myself a double whiskey. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from a cold anger I had never experienced before. For half an hour, I sat motionless in my leather armchair, processing every word Leonie had said in front of those 500 people. Then I went to my study and opened the filing cabinet where I kept all the documents related to her education. It was time to calculate exactly how much I had invested in the family disgrace. The numbers were overwhelming. From Leonie's enrollment at university in 2018 until her graduation, I had spent exactly $83,500. This wasn't an estimate. These were precise figures that I had meticulously documented. Annual tuition fees totaled $36,000. Medical textbooks, which changed every semester, added another $9,000. The apartment I rented for her near the university for those 6 years cost $24,000. The monthly living expenses I conscientiously transferred to her account totaled $22,000. Not to mention the medical equipment, private English tutoring for scientific papers, and international conferences I sent her to for additional training. As I reviewed each receipt, each bank transfer, each proof of payment, I remembered conversations that I didn't give importance to at the time, but now took on a completely different meaning. Last year, at a family dinner at Sabine's house, Leonie had said to her mother, "Mom, you understand the importance of higher education, not like Dad, who thinks having money is enough." Sabine had smiled and replied, "My dear, culture and education can't be bought. They're inherited. Some people simply aren't born for it." On another occasion, when I told Leonie about a medical documentary I had watched, she responded dismissively, "Dad, please don't comment on topics you don't understand. Medicine is much more complex than they show on TV." I remember staying quiet, thinking perhaps she was right and I was being intrusive. Now I understood that these comments weren't random. They were part of a systematic campaign to make me feel inferior, to position me as the financial provider, but never as a father who deserved respect or recognition. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. There was the transfer I had approved 3 weeks earlier for the educational loan of $120,000 that would finance the master's degree in interventional cardiology that Leonie was set to begin in September at the Charité in Berlin. It was a 2-year program that would make her a specialist. I also checked my will. Leonie was the main beneficiary of my estate, which included my construction company worth $2 million, my house in Dresden worth $500,000, and various investments totaling another $800,000. More than $3 million that she would inherit when I died. Not anymore. At 11:47 p.m. on June 26, 2024, I made 4 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to Frank Meyer, my lawyer and friend for 15 years. "Frank, I'm sorry to call so late, but I need you to do something urgent tomorrow morning." "Andreas, what's wrong? You sound strange." "I need you to cancel an educational loan and modify my will. Can you be in your office at 8 a.m.? There was a pause. Frank knew me well enough to know I didn't make impulsive decisions. I'll be there. Do you want to tell me what happened? Tomorrow. I need to sleep on this before explaining it to anyone. The second call was to my accountant, Helena Schultz. Helena, tomorrow I need you to remove someone from all my accounts and insurance policies. I'll send you the details by email in 5 minutes. Andreas, is everything okay? Everything is perfect. For the first time in years, everything is crystal clear. The third call was to my business partner, Thomas Klein. Thomas, tomorrow I need to talk to you about modifying the company's succession plans. At 11 p.m.? Andreas, you're worrying me. Don't worry. I'm just making some adjustments that should have been made a long time ago. The fourth call was the hardest. I called Mercedes-Benz dealership manager, Klaus Fischer. Klaus, about the C-Class I purchased last week for my daughter. I need to cancel that sale. Andreas, the car is ready for delivery tomorrow. The cancellation will cost you 10% of the value. I don't care. Cancel it. And Klaus, if anyone asks why I canceled it, tell them the truth. The person it was intended for didn't deserve it. After the calls, I poured myself another whiskey and sat on my terrace, looking at the Dresden night sky. The city lights twinkled in the distance, indifferent to my personal drama. For 25 years I had built my life around one principle. Give Leonie everything I never had. The best education, the best opportunities, a life without financial worries. And in return, she had called me a disgrace. In public, in front of 500 people, on what should have been one of the proudest days of both our lives. But what hurt most wasn't the public humiliation. It was the realization that this wasn't a nervous mistake or a momentary lapse. This was the culmination of years of disdain, hidden behind polite smiles and superficial visits. Leonie, influenced by Sabine and her academic family, had always seen me as an embarrassment. The construction worker father who made money but lacked culture. Well, if I was going to be a disgrace, at least I would be a disgrace who didn't finance his own humiliation. The next morning, June 27th, 2024, I woke up at 6 a.m. I hadn't slept well, but I felt strangely clear-headed. There was no doubt in my mind about what I needed to do. At 8 a.m. sharp, I was in Frank Meyer's office. He looked at me with concern as I sat down. Andreas, in 15 years I've never seen you like this. What happened? I told him everything. The graduation ceremony, Leonie's speech, the public humiliation. When I finished, Frank was silent for a long moment. My God, Andreas, I'm so sorry. I don't even have words. I don't need condolences, Frank. I need action. Can you cancel the educational loan? Yes, but Andreas, are you sure? This will destroy her plans for the master's degree. She destroyed 25 years of sacrifices with one sentence. I think we're even. Frank nodded slowly. Okay, the loan was approved, but not yet disbursed. I can cancel it today. What else? I want to modify my will, remove Leonie as the main beneficiary. Andreas, that's drastic. Maybe you should take a few days to think about it. Frank, I've had 25 years to think about it. Every time I worked overtime to pay for her tuition. Every time I canceled personal plans to support her. Every time I swallowed Sabine's insults because I didn't want to create problems for Leonie. I've thought enough. Change the will. Who do you want as the main beneficiary? I had thought about this during the sleepless hours of the night. Divide it into thirds, 1/3 to the Andreas Hoffman Foundation, which I want to create to provide scholarships for children from working-class families. 1/3 to St. Mary's Hospital, where Leonie was born. 1/3 to my nephew Michael, who actually appreciates what I do for him. Frank took notes, his hand trembling slightly. And Leonie gets nothing? Leonie will get exactly what she thinks I'm worth. Nothing. Andreas, I have to ask you this as your lawyer. Is there any possibility of reconciliation? Sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're nervous. I looked at Frank directly. She wasn't nervous. She was calculated. She looked directly at me when she said those words. She wanted me to hear them. She wanted everyone to hear them. No, Frank, there's no reconciliation from public humiliation. By 10 a.m., the loan cancellation was processed. By noon, the new will was drawn up and signed. By 2 p.m., Helena had removed Leonie from all my accounts, credit cards, and insurance policies. By 3 p.m., I received the first call from Sabine. Andreas, what the hell are you doing? Leonie just called me crying because the university notified her that her master's funding was canceled. Hello, Sabine. How nice to hear from you. Don't play games with me. You can't do this to her. She's worked so hard. Actually, Sabine, I can do exactly this. It was my money, my loan, my decision, just like it was Leonie's decision to call me a disgrace in front of 500 people. She was nervous. She didn't mean it. Really, because it seemed very intentional to me. Tell me, Sabine, how many years have you been filling her head with the idea that I'm a disgrace to the family? There was an uncomfortable silence on the other end of the line. I thought so, I continued. You've spent years undermining me to Leonie, making her feel embarrassed about having a construction worker father instead of a university professor. Well, congratulations, your programming worked. And now she can learn what it means to live without the financial support of the disgrace. Andreas, you're being cruel. This will ruin her career. No, Sabine. What's cruel is what she did yesterday. What I'm doing now is simply setting boundaries. Leonie is 24 years old. She's an adult. She can get student loans, scholarships, or work while she studies, like millions of students do every year. But the master's program starts in September. She doesn't have time to arrange alternative financing. Then perhaps she should have thought about that before humiliating me publicly. Actions have consequences, Sabine. It's time Leonie learned that lesson. I hung up. My phone immediately started buzzing with messages. From Sabine, from Leonie, from Sabine's brother Carl, from various family members. I ignored them all. At 6 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. Leonie stood on my doorstep, her eyes red from crying, her face streaked with tears. For a moment, I almost weakened. This was my daughter, the little girl I had raised alone after Sabine left, the child I had read bedtime stories to, whose scraped knees I had bandaged, whose first bicycle I had bought. But then I remembered her words. A disgrace to our family. Dad, please, we need to talk. Come in. She walked into my house, the house where she had grown up, looking around as if seeing it for the first time. I gestured for her to sit on the sofa. I remained standing. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean what I said yesterday. I was nervous and... Stop. She fell silent, shocked by the coldness in my voice. Leonie, let me ask you something. When you wrote that speech, did you include my name in it? She hesitated. That was answer enough. Did you at any point consider thanking me for the $83,500 I spent on your education? I thought it was understood that I was grateful. Did you think about the Mercedes I was going to give you yesterday? The one that's now canceled? Her eyes widened. You were going to give me a car? I was, past tense, It was parked at the dealership, ready for delivery. But you know what? A disgrace to the family doesn't deserve a Mercedes. Dad, please, I know I made a mistake, but you can't punish me like this. The Master's program is no longer my problem. I walked to the window, turning my back to her. Leonie, do you know how much money I invested in your 6 years of education? No, not exactly. $83,500, exactly. Every cent documented and receipted. And now you wanted me to add another $120,000 for your specialization, $203,500 total for your higher education. I heard her get up from the sofa and approach me. Dad, and I'm infinitely grateful for that. I know you made enormous sacrifices. No, Leonie, you're not grateful for anything. You made that perfectly clear yesterday. For you, I was just an inconvenient financial provider, a disgrace who financed your future, but whom you preferred to keep hidden. That's not true. I turned around to face her directly. Isn't it? How many times did you invite me to university events? How many times did you proudly introduce me to your professors or classmates? How many times did you defend my work or my efforts when your mother made disparaging comments? Leonie was silent. She knew she couldn't answer yes to any of those questions. The answer is 0, Leonie, 0 times. For 6 years, I was your silent financier, and yesterday you decided to make that public. At that moment, you severed the financial relationship between us. Just then, my phone rang. It was Sabine. I deliberately put it on speaker. Andreas, you're behaving like a spoiled child. Leonie is devastated by your overreaction. Stop this tantrum and restore the loan immediately. Hello, Sabine. How nice of you to call. I wanted to ask you something. How many years have you been filling Leonie's head with the idea that I'm a disgrace to the family? There was an uncomfortable silence on the other end of the line. Leonie stared at me with wide eyes. Andreas, don't make a drama out of this. I simply taught her to value education and culture over money. Perfect. Then now you can also teach her how to earn her own money for her education and culture. You're being ridiculous. You can't ruin your daughter's future over an unfortunate remark. Sabine, Leonie's future never depended solely on my money. It depends on her talent, her effort, and her ability. If she's really as brilliant as you always say, she'll find a way to get alternative financing. I hung up and looked at Leonie, who had sat down again and was crying silently. Dad, without the Masters, I can't specialize. Private clinics only hire interventional cardiologists with specialization. My professional career will be ruined. Leonie, there are public hospitals that hire general practitioners. You can work in primary care, in the emergency room, in internal medicine. But those jobs pay much less. I know, and that's exactly the point. You'll learn what it means to work for your money instead of just receiving it. She stood up abruptly. You're punishing me for one mistake. No, Leonie, I'm setting a boundary. If you had called me a disgrace in private, we could have talked about it. But you did it publicly, in front of 500 people, at what should have been a celebration of our joint achievement. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice, and choices have consequences. Leonie went to the door, defeated. Is there nothing I can do to make you change your mind? Yes, there is. Show me over the next few years that you've truly learned the value of respect and effort. Maybe then we can rebuild our father-daughter relationship on completely new terms. After she left, I sat in my armchair and felt truly free for the first time in 25 years. I had set clear boundaries, and now Leonie had to decide whether she wanted to be part of my life based on mutual respect or continue her path without my financial support. But what I didn't know was that this was only the beginning. The real lesson was yet to come. In the following days, my phone became a battlefield. Sabine's family had decided to massively intervene in what they saw as my irrational behavior. The first to call me was Karl Weber, Sabine's older brother and professor of literature at the University of Dortmund. Andreas, I spoke with Sabine about the situation. I understand you feel offended, but ruining Leonie's academic future is a disproportionate reaction. The comments of a nervous young woman shouldn't have such severe consequences. Karl, I appreciate your concern, but this decision is not up for family debate. But my friend, be reasonable. Leonie made a mistake, yes, but she's young. We all say things we don't mean when we're under pressure. Karl, Leonie is 24 years old. She just graduated as a doctor. She's supposed to be mature enough to understand the weight of her words. If she's not mature enough for that, then perhaps she's not mature enough to handle a $120,000 loan either. There was an uncomfortable pause. Andreas, the family is worried. Sabine says you're not answering Leonie's calls. That's correct. I need time to process what happened, and Leonie needs time to understand that respect isn't optional. But Andreas, without the master's, her career options are very limited. Then she'll have to be creative, just like I had to be creative when I started my construction company with $5,000 and no university degree. Life without a safety net teaches valuable lessons, Karl. The second call came from Thomas Klein, my own brother. Apparently, Sabine had even contacted my own family. Andreas, what the hell is going on? Sabine called me and said you canceled Leonie's studies over some nonsense. Thomas, I'm surprised Sabine contacted you. She's obviously desperate to reverse my decision. Brother, we all know you've been an exemplary father. You sacrificed everything for that girl, but now you're being cruel. Cruel? Do you know what's cruel, Thomas? Having my daughter, after I invested $83,500 in her education, call me a disgrace in front of 500 people. That's cruelty. But Andreas, girls say stupid things when they're nervous. Maria also said hurtful things to me when she was stressed, and I would never have thought to punish her financially. Thomas, Maria was 12 when she said those things to you. Leonie is 24 and just graduated as a doctor. She's supposed to be mature enough to understand the weight of her words. I even received a completely unexpected call from Lena Brand, Leonie's best friend since childhood. Apparently, the pressure campaign had reached a level I couldn't have imagined. Mr. Hoffman, this is Lena. I know it might not be appropriate for me to call, but I'm very worried about Leonie. Lena, I appreciate your loyalty to my daughter, but this is a family matter. I know, Mr. Hoffman, but Leonie is truly devastated. She hasn't slept for 3 days, isn't eating, and is obsessed with finding a way to finance her master's. She's considering taking out loans with very high interest rates. Lena, if Leonie wants to continue her specialization, she can look for merit-based scholarships, work part-time, or apply for normal student loans, just like thousands of students do every year. But Mr. Hoffman, you know processing such loans takes years, and by then she'll have lost her place in the program. Exactly, Lena, and that's exactly the lesson she needs to learn, that opportunities are lost when we don't value the people who make them possible. The most annoying call came from Marcus Weber, Leonie's boyfriend. His tone was a mixture of pleading and subtle accusations. Mr. Hoffman, I understand you're angry, but I think you're being too harsh on Leonie. She really regrets what she said. Marcus, I appreciate your concern for my daughter, but I'm wondering, is your interest in her completing her master's purely romantic, or are there financial considerations? There was an uncomfortable pause before he answered. I don't understand what you mean, sir. I mean that a specialized interventional cardiologist in private clinics earns between $8,000 and $12,000 per month. A general practitioner in a public hospital earns between $3,000 and $4,000. Does this salary difference influence your unconditional support for Leonie's specialization? Mr. Hoffman, that insinuation is very offensive. I love Leonie regardless of her professional future. Marcus, time will tell if that's true. If you truly love my daughter, you'll support her even when she's working as a general practitioner in a public hospital, earning a modest salary and living a simple life. After 2 weeks of constant pressure, I called Frank to make sure all legal and financial changes were completely processed and irrevocable. Andreas, everything has been executed according to your instructions. The loan is definitively canceled. Leonie has been removed from all your accounts and benefits, and your new will is officially registered. Perfect. Frank, have you gotten pressure from Sabine's family to persuade me to reverse the decisions? Carl Weber called me yesterday. I explained that I follow my client's instructions, not third-party advice. Thank you for remaining professional. It's reassuring to know that at least one person understands that an adult's decisions must be respected. That night, on my terrace with a glass of red wine, I reflected on the 2 most intense weeks of my adult life. For the first time in decades, I had taken a firm, unwavering stance and discovered something liberating. When you set clear boundaries and maintain them, people eventually stop trying to manipulate you. Leonie would have to learn to live with the consequences of her choices, and I would have to learn to live without the burden of financing ingratitude. But what I didn't know was that the situation was about to get much worse for Leonie. And not because of me. 3 weeks after the graduation incident, I received a call that completely changed my perspective on the true reasons for Leonie's and Marcus's desperation. The call came from Lucas Schultz, an old acquaintance who worked as an administrator at St. Martin Hospital in Dortmund. Andreas, I need to tell you something that might interest you about your daughter and her boyfriend. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Of course, Lucas. What's going on? Well, it's a bit delicate. Marcus Weber works here as a resident physician, and there's been some interesting talk around the hospital. What kind of talk? Apparently, Marcus had been telling colleagues for months that once Leonie finished her master's in interventional cardiology, they would open a private practice together. He had even started looking at commercial properties and talking to investors. My stomach tightened. Continue. Andreas, according to what I've heard, Marcus's entire financial plan for the next 5 years was based on Leonie becoming a high-earning specialist. He has significant debts, student loans, a luxury car he couldn't afford, and an apartment he's renting that's way above his means. And now that the master's is canceled? Now he's in serious financial trouble, and from what I've heard, his interest in Leonie has, let's say, noticeably cooled since the news broke about the canceled loan. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. So my intuition about Marcus had been correct. His unconditional love for Leonie was directly tied to her earning potential. 2 days later, I received confirmation of this in the most painful way. For Leonie. It was July 15th, 2024, almost 3 weeks after the graduation ceremony. I was in my office reviewing construction project plans when my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Hoffman, this is Lena. I'm with Leonie at my apartment. She's in very bad shape. Marcus broke up with her an hour ago. She's asking for you." I stared at the message for a full minute. Part of me wanted to ignore it. She had called me a disgrace. She had humiliated me publicly. Why should I run to comfort her now? But another part of me, the part that remembered rocking a crying baby at 3 a.m., that remembered teaching a 6-year-old to ride a bike, that remembered sitting up all night when she had pneumonia at age 10, that part of me couldn't ignore the message. I drove to Lena's apartment. When she opened the door, her face was grave. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Hoffman. She's in my bedroom." Leonie was sitting on the bed, her knees pulled up to her chest, her face swollen from crying. When she saw me, fresh tears started flowing. "Dad," her voice broke on the word. I sat in a chair across from her, maintaining some distance. "Lena said Marcus broke up with you." She nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Then, in a broken voice, he said he can't be with someone who doesn't have ambition, that he needs a partner who shares his vision for the future, that he can't waste years waiting for me to, maybe, become someone successful. What exactly did he say? Leonie pulled out her phone with shaking hands and showed me a text message. I read it, and cold anger flooded through me. "Leonie, I think it's best we take a break. I need to focus on my career, and honestly, your current situation isn't compatible with the life I'm planning. I need a partner who's moving forward, not backward. I hope you understand. Take care." "He sent that by text?" I asked, incredulous. "He didn't even have the decency to do it in person?" "He did it in person first," Leonie whispered. "At a cafe, in public. He said he didn't want me making a scene at his apartment. Then he sent this text afterward to make it official." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, for the first time since the graduation. She had lost weight. Her face was pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Her hands trembled as she held the phone. "Leonie, I'm going to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. How long has Marcus been pressuring you about becoming a high-earning specialist?" She looked up, surprised. "How did you know?" "Answer the question." Since about a year ago. When I told him about the interventional cardiology program at Charité, he got really excited, started talking about opening a private practice together, about the kind of life we could have with 2 specialist incomes. She paused. But I didn't think that was all he cared about. I thought he loved me. "Did he ever talk about marrying you if you stayed a general practitioner?" Her silence was answer enough. "Leonie, Marcus showed you exactly what he is, someone who valued your earning potential more than you as a person. And you know what the ironic part is? You did exactly the same thing to me." She looked up sharply. "What?" "You valued me for my money, my ability to pay for your education, your apartment, your lifestyle. But as a person, as your father, I was a disgrace, something to hide and be embarrassed about." "Dad, that's not—" "It is true, Leonie, and now you know how it feels. To be valued only for what you can provide financially, not for who you are." She broke down completely then, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Lena moved to comfort her, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Leonie, crying won't change anything. Marcus made his choice. I made my choice. Now you have to make yours." "What choice?" she asked between sobs. "The choice to learn from this or not. You can either see this as the universe punishing you unfairly, or you can see it as a wake-up call about the kind of person you've been." I stood up to leave. As I reached the door, Leonie called out, "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I turned back to look at her. "Leonie, I know you're sorry now. The question is, are you sorry for what you did, or are you sorry about the consequences?" I left before she could answer. Over the next month, I heard, through the grapevine, small-town networks being what they are, about Leonie's situation. She had moved back in with Sabine. She had applied for several student loans, but been rejected due to lack of credit history and collateral. She had reached out to the Charité program, but her spot had been given to an alternate candidate. She had taken a job at St. Martin Hospital, not as a doctor, but as a medical records clerk. It was administrative work that paid $2,200 per month, barely enough to cover basic expenses. In August, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten, from Leonie. "Dear Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve to ask for forgiveness, but I need you to know that I understand now. I've been working at St. Martin's for 6 weeks. It's humbling work, organizing files, dealing with insurance claims, helping patients navigate paperwork. It's not what I imagined doing with my medical degree, but it's teaching me something important. Every day, I see elderly patients come in, often alone because their families are too busy to accompany them. I see adult children who only show up when it's time to sign inheritance documents, but disappear when it's about daily care. Yesterday, I helped a 70-year-old man whose daughter hadn't visited him in 3 years, despite living in the same city. He cried while telling me about all the sacrifices he made for her education. "I gave her everything," he said, "and she gave me nothing back. I saw you in him, Dad, and I saw myself in his daughter. I'm not writing to ask you to restore my funding. I'm not writing to ask for anything, actually. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I took from you. Not just money, but respect, dignity, recognition. You spent 25 years being proud of me, and I couldn't give you 5 minutes of public acknowledgement. I'm so ashamed. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. But if you never want to see me again, I understand that too. I love you, Dad. I should have said that more. Leonie." I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in my desk drawer and didn't respond. Not because I was cruel, but because words are easy. Change is hard. And I needed to see if Leonie's understanding would last beyond the immediate pain of her consequences. September came. Leonie didn't get into any master's programs. Her medical degree was being wasted on administrative work. According to my sources, Sabine was furious with her, blaming Leonie for not managing the situation with her father better. In October, I heard that Leonie had moved out of Sabine's house and into a small studio apartment. She was living on her own for the first time, budgeting, cooking her own meals, taking public transportation, instead of the car Sabine had let her use. In November, I received a second letter. "Dear Dad, I know you didn't respond to my last letter. I understand why. I wanted you to know that I've been putting aside $200 from each paycheck. It's not much. It's taken me 4 months to save $1,800, but it's a start on paying you back the $83,500 you invested in me. At this rate, it will take me 38 years to repay you. I'll be 62, the age you are now, when I finish. Maybe that's appropriate. Maybe by then I'll understand what it really means to sacrifice for someone who doesn't appreciate it. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying. Leonie. This letter moved me more than the first. Not because of the 1-800, that was nothing compared to what I had spent, but because it showed something the first letter didn't. Sustained effort, change over time, growth. Still, I didn't respond. In December, during the holiday season, I ran into Sabine at a grocery store. It was the first time we'd spoken face to face since the graduation. "Andreas," she said stiffly. "Sabine, I suppose you're pleased with yourself. You've successfully ruined your daughter's life." "I ruined nothing, Sabine. Leonie made her choices. I'm simply no longer funding them." "She's working as a clerk, a medical doctor working as a clerk, all because you couldn't take a little criticism." "A little criticism?" I felt my anger rising. "She called me a disgrace in front of 500 people, Sabine. That's not criticism. That's public humiliation. And it was the culmination of years of you poisoning her mind against me." "I did no such thing." "Really? How many times did you tell her that education and culture were more important than money? How many times did you imply that my lack of university degree made me less than? How many times did you suggest she should be embarrassed about having a construction worker father?" Sabine's face flushed. "I was teaching her to value intellectual achievement." "No, you were teaching her to despise her own father. And congratulations, it worked. But now she's learning what life is like without that father's support. And apparently, it's harder than either of you imagined. Andreas, she's your daughter. Don't you care that she's struggling?" "Of course I care, Sabine. I'm her father. That will never change. But caring doesn't mean I should enable her to continue treating me with disrespect. Sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is let their child face the natural consequences of their actions. She's trying to change. She's working, saving money, living independently. I know. And when she's done that long enough to prove the change is real and not just temporary because she's suffering consequences, then maybe we can talk about rebuilding our relationship. But that's between Leonie and me, not you and me." I walked away, leaving Sabine standing in the grocery aisle. But as I drove home, her words echoed in my mind. She's trying to change. Was she? Or was she just trying to survive? Until she could find another way to finance her ambitions. That was the question I needed answered before I could even consider reconciliation. On December 23rd, 2024, exactly 6 months after the graduation ceremony, there was a knock on my door at 7 p.m. I opened it to find Leonie standing there, holding a small gift box. "Hi, Dad." "Leonie, I know you didn't answer my letters. I'm not here to ask why. I just wanted to give you this before Christmas. You don't have to open it in front of me. You don't have to open it at all if you don't want to." She held out the box. I took it. "Thank you." She turned to leave, then paused. "Dad, I just want you to know. I got offered a position at St. Martin's as an actual doctor, emergency medicine. It's not cardiology. It's not prestigious. But it's medicine. Real medicine. And I took it. That's good, Leonie. Congratulations. I know it pays less than what I could make as a specialist. I know it's not what Mom wanted for me, but it's what I want. It feels right. Like I'm helping people because I want to, not because of the paycheck. I nodded. That's growth. Her eyes filled with tears. I miss you, Dad. I know. Do you miss me? I paused, considering whether to be honest. Yes, I miss the daughter I thought I had. I'm waiting to see if she's still in there somewhere. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'll prove it to you. Somehow, I'll prove it. After she left, I opened the box. Inside was a framed photo, one I didn't even know existed. It was from when she was about 8 years old. We were at a construction site, and I had let her wear my hard hat. She was grinning hugely, and I was smiling down at her with unmistakable pride. Under the photo, she had written, "Back when you were proud to be my dad, and I was proud to be your daughter. I want to get back there. L." I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I put it on my desk, where I would see it every day. The question was this real change or just another manipulation? Only time would tell. The photo sat on my desk for 3 weeks. Every morning I saw it when I opened my laptop. Every evening I saw it when I closed it. That little girl in the hard hat, grinning with pure joy. That father, looking at his daughter with uncomplicated pride. We had been so simple then, before Sabine's influence, before academic ambitions, before money complicated everything. On January 15th, 2025, 7 months after the graduation ceremony, I received an unexpected call from Dr. Werner Schmidt, the chief of emergency medicine at St. Martin Hospital. "Mr. Hoffman, I hope I'm not intruding. My name is Werner Schmidt. I'm Leonie's supervisor at St. Martin's." My heart skipped. "Is she okay? Did something happen?" "Oh no, nothing like that. She's fine. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I wanted to tell you about something that happened last week." "I'm listening." "We had an elderly patient come in, 82 years old, suspected heart attack. His family had dropped him off at the ER entrance and left. Didn't even come inside. Leonie was the attending physician, and after we stabilized him, she spent 2 hours sitting with him. Not because it was medically necessary, but because he was alone and scared. I didn't say anything, so Dr. Schmidt continued. When her shift ended at midnight, she was still there. I told her to go home, and you know what she said? "My father taught me that people matter more than schedules." Then she stayed another hour until the man's son finally showed up. My throat tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because in my 30 years of medicine, I've seen a lot of young doctors. Most of them are competent. Some are excellent. But very few genuinely care about their patients as people, not just cases. Leonie does. And I thought you should know that whatever you taught her, it stuck." After we hung up, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at that photo. My father taught me that people matter more than schedules. Had I taught her that? Or was she just saying what she thought would sound good? 2 days later, I found out the answer. I was at the construction site overseeing a renovation project when I got a call from an unknown number. "Mr. Hoffman, this is Martha Schneider. I don't know if you remember me, but I'm the mother of Lena Brand, Leonie's friend." "Of course, Mrs. Schneider. Is everything all right?" Yes. I'm calling because, well, this is a bit awkward, but I thought you should know. Leonie has been volunteering." "Volunteering?" "Yes, every Sunday for the past 2 months. She's been going to the Sonnenblick nursing home. She spends the whole day there, reading to residents, helping them write letters, just keeping them company. My mother is there, and she talks about Leonie constantly. That doctor who actually listens, she calls her." I felt something shift in my chest. "Every Sunday?" "Every single one, rain or shine. And Mr. Hoffman, she never mentions it to anyone. I only found out because my mother told me. Leonie doesn't do it for credit or recognition. She just does it." After that call, I made a decision. I needed to see for myself. The following Sunday, January 26, 2025, I drove to Sonnenblick Nursing Home. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I just wanted to watch. I arrived at 2 p.m. and told the receptionist I was considering placement for a family member and wanted to observe the facility. She gave me a visitor's badge and told me I was welcome to walk around. I found Leonie in the common room. She was sitting with an elderly man in a wheelchair, showing him photos on a tablet. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see her face, animated, engaged, genuinely interested. After about 20 minutes, she moved to another resident, an old woman who seemed agitated. Leonie knelt beside her wheelchair, took her hands, and spoke softly. Gradually, the woman calmed down. Leonie stayed there for 40 minutes, just holding her hands and talking. I watched for 2 hours. Leonie moved from resident to resident. She laughed with some, cried with others. She helped one man eat his dinner when the nursing staff was overwhelmed. She read from a book to a group of 4 residents who gathered around her like children at story time. This wasn't a performance. There was no one there to impress. This was just who she was when no one was watching. As I turned to leave, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned to see an elderly man with kind eyes. "You're Leonie's father, aren't you?" I was startled. "How did you know?" "She has a photo of you two on her phone. Shows it sometimes when she talks about you. I'm Friedrich Hoffmann, by the way. No relation, despite the last name. Andreas, nice to meet you. Your daughter is special, Andreas. In 2 months, she's made more difference in this place than some staff members who've been here for years. You should be very proud." "Did she tell you about our situation?" Friedrich nodded slowly. "A bit. She said she hurt you very badly and is trying to learn how to be a better person. She said you taught her that respect isn't something you can fake. You either feel it or you don't, and she's learning to feel it." "She said that?" "Every Sunday. She sits with me for at least an hour. We talk about a lot of things. But she always comes back to you. How you worked yourself to exhaustion for her. How you never made her feel poor even though money was tight when she was young. How you taught her that dignity isn't about titles or degrees." I felt tears pricking my eyes. "Thank you for telling me this." "Andreas, I don't know what happened between you two, but I know this. That young woman in there is beating herself up every day for whatever it was, and she's genuinely trying to change. The question is, when is change enough?" I drove home with those words echoing in my mind. When is change enough? That night, I did something I hadn't done in 7 months. I picked up my phone and typed a message to Leonie. "I was at Sonnenblick today. Friedrich says hello." I stared at the message for 5 minutes before hitting send. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a response came. "You were there?" "Yes." "For how long?" 2 hours. A long pause. Then, "What did you think?" I considered my response carefully. This was the first real communication we'd had since Christmas. "I think you're doing good work." Another pause. "Does this mean you're ready to talk?" "Not yet, but it means I'm watching. Keep doing what you're doing." "I will, I promise." "Don't promise, just do it." "Okay." Then, after a moment, "Dad?" "Yes." "Thank you for coming." I didn't respond. I wasn't ready for that level of warmth yet, but I didn't block her number either. It was a start. Over the next 3 months, I found myself doing something I hadn't expected. I started checking in on Leonie, not directly, but through the network of people who knew her. From Dr. Schmidt, I learned that she had requested the most difficult shifts, nights, weekends, holidays, because the patients who come in during those times are usually the most scared and alone. From Lucas at hospital administration, I learned that she had declined 2 offers for better-paying positions at private clinics. When asked why, she apparently said, "I'm not ready yet. I need to learn to be a doctor who cares about people, not profit." From Mrs. Schneider, I learned that Leonie had started a program at Sonnenblick called Family for a Day, where volunteers would spend extended time with residents who never got visitors. She was there every Sunday, without fail. From my accountant Helena, who happened to have a friend at Leonie's bank, I learned that Leonie was still depositing $200 every month into a savings account labeled Dad's Education Investment. But the moment that truly changed my mind came in March. It was March 19th, 2025, 9 months after the graduation. I received a call from St. Martin Hospital at 11 p.m. "Mr. Hoffman, this is Dr. Schmidt. I need you to come to the hospital immediately. It's about Leonie." My heart stopped. "What happened? Is she hurt?" "She's fine. But there's a situation, and you need to see it yourself. Please come. Emergency entrance." I drove to the hospital in a panic, every horrible scenario running through my mind. When I burst through the ER doors, Dr. Schmidt was waiting. "Where is she? What happened?" "Follow me, and please just observe quietly." He led me to a corridor outside one of the examination rooms. Through the window, I could see Leonie sitting on a chair next to a hospital bed. In the bed was a man, probably in his mid-60s, tubes and monitors everywhere. But what struck me was the way Leonie was holding his hand and crying. "Who is that?" I whispered to Dr. Schmidt. "Robert Klein. He came in 3 hours ago with a severe stroke. His daughter brought him in and then left. Said she had a business meeting. She couldn't miss. Mr. Klein kept asking for his daughter, getting more and more agitated, which was dangerous for his condition." What does this have to do with Leonie? Leonie was the attending physician. She stabilized him, but he was still distressed about being alone. So, Dr. Schmidt paused. She told him she would stay, that she wouldn't leave him alone. And she's been there for 3 hours, holding his hand. Her shift ended 2 hours ago. As we watched, Leonie wiped her eyes and started speaking softly to the unconscious man. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the tenderness in her face. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Because about an hour ago, Mr. Klein regained consciousness briefly. He was confused, disoriented, and Leonie told him, 'Your daughter couldn't be here, but you're not alone. I'm here, and I'm not leaving you.' Dr. Schmidt turned to face me fully. Then she said something that broke my heart. She said, 'My father taught me that the worst thing you can do to someone is abandon them when they need you most.' And I finally understand what he meant. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. Mr. Hoffman, I don't know what happened between you and your daughter, but I know this. That young woman in there is not the same person who graduated 7 months ago. She's learned something profound about human dignity and respect, and she credits you for teaching it to her, even if she took years to understand the lesson." I stood there watching through the window as Leonie continued to hold the hand of a stranger who reminded her of me. And I realized this was real. This wasn't performance or manipulation. This was genuine transformation. "Can I go in?" I asked. I was hoping you would. I opened the door quietly. Leonie didn't notice me at first. She was focused entirely on her patient, checking his vital signs while still holding his hand. "Leonie?" She spun around, her eyes wide with shock. "Dad? What are you?" "Dr. Schmidt called me." She stood up quickly, suddenly self-conscious. "I didn't ask him to. I know. Sit down." She sat. I walked over and stood across the bed from her, looking at the unconscious man between us. His daughter really left him here alone? Yes, she said she had a business meeting. "And you've been here for 3 hours?" "Yes." "Why?" Leonie looked at the man, then back at me. "Because I kept thinking about how I left you at that graduation. After everything you'd done for me, I walked away and left you with nothing. And I thought if I can prevent even one person from feeling that abandonment, then maybe I'm learning." I felt my carefully maintained emotional walls starting to crack. "Leonie, do you remember what you called me at the graduation?" She flinched. "A disgrace." "Yes, in front of 500 people. Do you understand why that hurt so much?" "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because you'd spent 25 years sacrificing for me, and I thanked you by telling the world you were worthless. And do you understand why I cut off your funding? Yes, because respect isn't negotiable, and I'd shown you none." I looked at her carefully. "If I restored your funding today, what would you do with it?" She seemed surprised by the question. "What do you mean? Would you go back to pursuing interventional cardiology, the private practice, the high income?" Leonie was quiet for a long moment. "No." "Why not?" "Because I've learned something in these 9 months, Dad. I learned that the most valuable thing I can do as a doctor isn't in a private clinic treating wealthy patients who have dozens of other options. It's here, in the ER, with people who are scared and alone and have nowhere else to go." She gestured to the man in the bed. "Mr. Klein doesn't have money for a private cardiologist, but he deserves the same care, the same compassion, the same dignity as anyone else. And I want to be the kind of doctor who sees that, the kind of person who sees that. Even if it means less money? Dad, I'm making $3,800 a month now as an ER physician. I have a studio apartment that costs $950 a month. I take the bus to work. I make my own coffee instead of buying it. And you know what? I'm happy, really happy, for the first time in years." "What about Sabine? What does she think about your choices?" Leonie smiled sadly. "Mom is disappointed. She thinks I'm wasting my potential. We don't talk much anymore." "I'm sorry." "I'm not. She taught me to value the wrong things. You tried to teach me the right things, and I was too blind to see it." I walked around the bed and sat in the chair next to her. For the first time in 9 months, we sat side by side. "Leonie, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay." "Are you doing all of this? The volunteering, the ER work, the staying late with patients. Are you doing it because it's who you are, or because you're trying to prove something to me?" She thought about it carefully. 6 months ago, I was doing it to prove something to you. I was desperate for you to forgive me, and I thought if I could just show you I'd changed, everything would go back to normal. And now? Now I'm doing it because I can't not do it. Because when I see someone like Mr. Klein, alone and scared, I don't think about you watching or judging. I just think about how I'd want someone to treat you if you were in that position. And that changes everything. I felt tears in my eyes for the first time in 9 months. That's the right answer. Does this mean? It means I'm willing to try, to rebuild. Slowly. How slowly? Very slowly, Leonie. You destroyed 25 years of trust in one speech. You don't rebuild that in 9 months, no matter how much you've changed. I understand. But I'm willing to start. We can have dinner, once a month at first. We can talk, really talk, and we'll see where it goes from there. Leonie nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet. I'm still not restoring your inheritance. I'm still not funding any future education. You're on your own financially. I don't want your money, Dad. I just want you. That broke something in me. I reached over and took her hand, the first time I'd touched her since the graduation. Okay, we'll start there. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, both of us holding Mr. Klein's hand, keeping him company in his vulnerability. Finally, I said, I saw you at Sonnenblick. Friedrich told me what you do there. You saw me volunteering? Yes, for 2 hours. I watched you with the residents. Why didn't you say anything? Because I needed to see who you are when no one's watching, when there's no reward or recognition. And what I saw was someone who genuinely cares. I learned that from you, Dad, even if it took me 24 years to see it. Over the next 3 months, Leonie and I had dinner once a month, as agreed. The first dinner was awkward, 2 people trying to remember how to be family. The second was easier. By the third, we were actually laughing. In May, she invited me to the hospital to meet some of her patients. I met Mrs. Schneider's mother, who talked about Dr. Leonie with such affection that I almost cried. I met Friedrich at Sonnenblick, who winked at me and said, I told you she was special. In June, exactly 1 year after the graduation, Leonie asked if she could come to my house for dinner. Not out at a restaurant, but at home. I made her favorite meal from childhood, lasagna with extra cheese. We ate on the terrace as the sun set over Dresden. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. The $1,800 I've saved. I know it's nothing compared to what you spent on me, but I want you to have it. Leonie, you don't have to. Please, let me do this. Not because I think it pays you back, but because I need to make at least a symbolic gesture. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She had gained back the weight she'd lost. Her eyes were clear and bright. She looked healthy, happy, purposeful. Okay, on one condition. What? We donate it together to the Andreas Hoffman Foundation, the scholarship fund for kids from working-class families. Her eyes filled with tears. You really started that? I did. In July, we're giving our first scholarships, 5 students who want to study medicine but can't afford it. That's perfect, Dad. That's exactly what it should be. As we sat there in the fading light, I realized something. I had my daughter back. Not the daughter I'd lost at the graduation. That person was gone forever. But someone better. Someone who had learned through pain what I couldn't teach her through love. That respect, dignity, and human compassion are worth more than any degree or bank account. Leonie, I want you to know something. What? I'm proud of you. She started crying. Really? Really, not because of your medical degree, not because of your potential, but because of who you've become in this past year. You've learned what really matters, and that's worth more than any master's program. Dad, I'm so sorry for what I said, for calling you a disgrace. It was the worst thing I've ever done. I know, and I forgive you. You do? Yes. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. But it means we can move forward, together. We sat in silence for a while, just being father and daughter again. It wasn't perfect. There was still hurt, still healing to do. But it was real. Dad? Yes? Next month, the hospital is hosting a community appreciation event. They're honoring staff members who've made a difference. I'm being recognized for my volunteer work and patient care. That's wonderful, Leonie. Congratulations. Will you come? It's public. There will be speeches. I understood what she was asking. Would I risk public exposure again? Would I trust her not to hurt me in front of others? I'll come. Really? Really. But Leonie, if you call me a disgrace again, I won't, I promise. Dad, when I give my speech, I'm going to tell everyone about you, about what you taught me, about how everything good in me came from you. Is that okay? I felt my throat tighten. That would be more than okay. On July 26, 2025, exactly 13 months after the graduation disaster, I sat in St. Martin Hospital Auditorium and watched my daughter receive recognition for excellence in patient care. When it was her turn to speak, she walked to the podium, found me in the audience, and smiled. Thank you all for this honor, but I can't accept it without acknowledging the person who taught me everything I know about what it means to care for people. She gestured to me. My father, Andreas Hoffman, is here today. A year ago, I said some terrible things about him. I called him a disgrace. I was wrong. He is the furthest thing from a disgrace. Her voice broke, but she continued. My father is a man who worked 12-hour days so I could have opportunities he never had. He taught me that dignity isn't about titles or money. It's about how you treat people when no one's watching. He showed me that real strength is quiet, consistent, and uncomplaining. Tears were streaming down her face now, but she kept going. For 25 years, he was the best father anyone could ask for, and I was too blind to see it. This award belongs to him, not me, because everything good in me I learned from him. The auditorium erupted in applause. People turned to look at me, and this time, instead of shame, I felt pride. After the ceremony, Leonie came to me, still holding her award plaque. Was that okay? I wasn't sure if... I pulled her into a hug, the first real hug in over a year. It was perfect, I whispered. You were perfect. We stood there for a long time, father and daughter, healing together. Our relationship will never be what it was. Too much has happened. Too much hurt was inflicted, but it's becoming something else, something built on hard lessons and genuine growth, something real. Leonie still works in the ER at St. Martin's. She still volunteers at Sonnenblick every Sunday. She still lives in her small studio apartment and takes the bus to work. And she still deposits $200 a month into that savings account, even though I've told her she doesn't have to. It keeps me humble, she says. It reminds me of what really matters. As for me, I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do as a parent is let your child fall. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they learn to fly on the way down. If you enjoyed this story, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the link on the left. Thanks for watching.